On behalf of the Gatekeepers Association of Alabama, we want to say welcome to all those that are with us live. We want to give honor to whom honor is due and thank Mayor Randall Woodfin for being with us today. Ha! Absolutely, we always give honor to the Lord. And we also want to say thank you to those that are watching this all over the city of Birmingham. This is for you. As Gatekeepers Association of Alabama, we want to do everything that we can to help you make an informed decision. And if you call the Lord your Savior and you don't want to just listen with your natural ears, but you want to hear with the ears of the Spirit, like in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 12, when it was time to anoint the next king over Israel, and Samuel went to the house of Jesse, and he passed over the first 7 sons. And then when David came in from the fields from serving, the Lord said, "Arise and anoint him, for he is the one." So you may be listening out there for whom the Lord is anointing and appointing to lead in this hour. And so what we love to do as gatekeepers is we love to base what we do on the Word of God. In Exodus chapter 18, verse 21, when it was time to select the next leaders for Israel, the Lord gave Moses very specific instructions. He said, the leaders whom you choose to put over you need these 4 qualifications. So this is what we're listening for. The Lord said, choose able men. These are qualified, skilled men. Able men such as fear God, men of truth who hate covetousness. Choose these to be leaders over you. So as you listen to Mayor Woodfin's platform, again, listen to the practical solutions, but also listen whom the Lord would have you arise and anoint and vote for to be your next mayor. So let's put our hands together and again thank Mayor Randall Woodfin for coming to be here today with us at the Gatekeepers Association of Alabama. Blessings, sir.
Thank you. And good afternoon to everyone that's present today in person as well as those who are by online. I want to thank the Gatekeepers for allowing me this opportunity. Big ups to Bishop Lowe for allowing me to be here in his leadership. And I will say this. I have a lot of vivid memories of a lot of different things, especially being a candidate 4 years ago, running for mayor. And I can tell you all that one of the things I remember the most was actually having the opportunity to speak before the Gatekeepers 4 years ago. So being familiar with this audience and what you all are attempting to do or wanting to do here, I'm grateful. 4 years ago as a candidate for mayor, I knocked on over 50,000 plus doors across the city along with a team of volunteers. And we spent so much time out there, I put a hole in a pair of shoes. And what I remember the most was not necessarily sharing what I wanted to do, but more so listening to what the residents told me their issues were. And a repeated thing I heard probably within those first 6 months centered around something like this. You had a mother or a grandmother who had a child or a grandchild who lived with her. She walked out into her front porch or she walked out into her front yard. And to the right of her, she was describing to me this burned out, dilapidated structure that had been there for years. And to the left of her, she was describing to me this overgrown or empty lot that had been there for years. And she spoke to how she was not pleased with the cracked sidewalk that didn't allow her child or grandchild to ride their bike safely on the sidewalk in front of their home. And she spoke to, when she pulled out of her driveway, how she was dodging potholes and the street hadn't been paved for years. And it was time to walk her child or grandchild down to the neighborhood park. She was not pleased with the playground not having enough adequate or upgraded playground equipment for her same child or that same grandchild to play in, swings and other playthings. And because it was getting dark and it was time to come home, the street light hadn't been working in years. And when they finally got home and it was time to feed her same child or that same grandchild, she was reminded that she lived in the food desert and she didn't live in proximity of healthy food options. And the extreme unfortunate part about that story was that from time to time they would have to drop to the ground because they heard gunshots. That is what I heard over and over. And so what I went back and told those same citizens, because I went back to the door a second time, and for some of them who I had time with over those 50,000 plus doors, I went back a third time, and I said, not you, not me, but we deserve better. That's what I said here in this left hand. In my right hand, what I said was, we will focus and invest in all 99 neighborhoods to address that issue I just described. So over the last 44 months, what we have done is not only remove that blighted structure she described here, we've removed over 1,400 of them at a tune of about $13 million, a real aggressive blight removal program. What we've done here is not only cut that empty lot with an aggressive weed abatement plan and over $4 million over the last 44 months. What we've done is invest more money in our land bank to go vertical with single-family homes here and acquire over 700 of those vacant lots into our land bank to support families being able to build single-family homes. What we've done not only for that mother or that grandmother is invest more in our sidewalks so that child or grandchild can play safely on that sidewalk. We've invested almost $30 million over 3 years to paving streets across the city of about 122 miles. And what we've done in that neighborhood park, which is not just that park, but 116 parks across the city, is do upgraded playground equipment to make sure that child and that grandchild can play safely. And what we've also done is partner with Alabama Power so we can go get more LED lights in our city so that same mother, that same grandmother with their child walking back from that park can feel safe at night or when the sun is setting. And when they got home, what we've done is wade through a lot of no's. Piggly Wiggly has told us no. Winn-Dixie has told us no. Publix has told us no. Kroger's has told us no. And some of those grocery stores I just named that are national chains and some local have told us no more than once. So we created our own healthy food fund, and we created a healthy food ordinance, because if we couldn't get brick and mortar food options to come into our inner city, we were going to bring food options to our citizens by partnering with urban farms in this city, such as Jones Valley Teaching Farm. But that's how committed we are to bringing healthy food options to our citizens. And what we've also done since January 1 of 2018 is taking over 5,000 illegal guns off the streets of Birmingham. Has that prevented every single gun act in the city? The answer is no. Do we believe that's prevented it from increasing at a drastic rate? The answer is yes. But the story doesn't stop there, because everything I just described to you all is about place. This is about infrastructure investments and removing things that are not only pleasing to the eye, but hurt property value. What we've also done is invest in people, not just place. What does that look like? Well, that same child, that same grandchild, when they enter high school, they can now leave high school early. They now can receive high school credit hours for working. They can work a minimum of 15, 16 hours a week for a total of 16 weeks, be exposed to a career they have an interest in, and be paid $15 an hour, which is something no one in this room as teenagers got paid. That same child, that same grandchild, when they walk across the stage like this and finish high school, and they walk off that stage and they go back into an audience like this, and they turn their tassels and they walk out of that auditorium and they take their pictures with their family and they go out to eat. If they choose to go to college, they're accepted into a college in this state school, Alabama, Auburn, UAB, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Jacksonville State, Troy, Montevallo, University of North Alabama, West Alabama, South Alabama, Belleville State, Lawson State, Jeff State, and all the other state schools I didn't name. If they choose to go to any of those schools, then they can go now tuition free, no questions asked, no GPA, no SAT score, no ACT score, because we believe in providing opportunities for our youngest generation. These are the things we've done over the last 44 months. I want to make it very plain and simple and clear to you why I'm seeking re-election. It's because what I described in that block about that blighted structure and that overgrown lot and that buckling sidewalk and that unpaved street and that neighborhood park that didn't have adequate playground equipment and those lights that didn't work, and living in that food desert in that particular neighborhood, community, or zip code, there are many more zip codes in this city. There are 98 more neighborhoods in this city. And there are thousands of more roads in the city that need to be paved. And we inherited thousands of blighted structures that still need to be removed, and many empty lots that we need to go vertical with single-family homes on. And more we have to do to invest and support our youngest generation in educational opportunities. The work is not complete, and we cannot, it is literally impossible to have completed anything we've started in 44 months. I am seeking re-election because we have to continue to improve the quality of life of all the citizens who live in Birmingham, as well as invest and make and create more opportunities in all the things I just addressed. There's a lot more I can say. What I prefer, Bishop, if that's okay with you, is to weave in some form of sharing my platform based on the questions that your public audience here asks, and we can just weave it that way.
McClure Sr., amen, very prominent fellow here in the city of Birmingham and around the world. Michael McClure Sr., thank you so very much. So pleased to be here. No, seriously, Mr. Mayor, I have a quick question, about 4. Let's deal with transparency and openness. I'm real big on that, okay? Once a year in my household, our family gathers around the table, and any question is asked. It's permitted. Any discussion is permitted around the table, as long as we show mutual respect and concern and love for one another. What's your policy on openness and transparency? Now, let's understand that if I ask you a question and you answer it, that gives us openness. But if you live a life in such a way that I don't have to ask the question, that's transparency. So how do you feel about it as it pertains to openness and transparency?
Thank you, Pastor McClure Sr. To your first question on openness and transparency, is quite simple. I was an employee for the city of Birmingham 8 years prior to actually serving as mayor. So I've had the opportunity to actually be an employee for the city of Birmingham. I also lived in this city most of the 40 years I've been living. And dealing with municipal government, I think there are some low-hanging fruit and realistic expectations our citizens have of us. And I think one of the lowest hanging fruits is transparency. And the reason that's easy to not only believe, accept, embrace, and then execute on as mayor is because when you deal with government, you're mainly dealing with city tax dollars. And what I've told the team, I used to tell them this every day, this is not our money. These tax dollars are not our money. And so our dealings, our interactions, how we allocate those resources, we have to be overly transparent, because that's what we should be doing and we should mandate ourselves to do. And that mandate was literally forced by not only saying we put people first, but we created core values at City Hall that didn't exist prior to being there. 1 being customer service, 2 being efficiency, 3 being effectiveness, 4 being transparency, and 5 being accountability. And so we believe transparency is directly attached to the 5th core value of accountability. But what does that transparency look like? Well, the first thing we did was create an open portal. So any of y'all at birminghaml.gov right now can go to our city's website and literally look at how your tax dollars are being spent, what they're being spent on in detail, all the way down to the city credit card that's in my wallet right now, and if I travel, when I travel, where I go, where I stay, who I fly with, how much my flight, hotel, did I pay for food? The answer is no, but et cetera. That's how transparent we are. Also, in using city channels, not just our website, but our social channels, not just our social channels, but TV media, not just TV media, but print, talking to Greg and everybody else. Everything we do has to be transparent because we believe in that. We support it, we embrace it.
Okay. Pretty good. Second question. We're dealing with, I heard a statement made at some point when our forums that with all the lights being put in around the city with the new way that the freeways run through the city, those lights are multicolored. Those lights are very beautiful, very vibrant, and that's vivacious. We like that. I'm told that there's a hidden agenda or meaning behind all the lights that are around the city. In your honest answer, what do those lights mean?
Brightness, just making downtown brighter. Look, I'll be honest with you. So if this is the people that are pro this right here, this whole seating section, or if these people are pro putting that interstate where it currently is, and these people on this side, whole side represent anti-putting that, I was on this side. I wasn't the mayor. And I was on this side so hard, I actually sued the state. I'm on record. Look it up, public record. I'm on record suing the state of Alabama Department of Transportation for actually wanting to put.
Are you aware that it's being said that those lights are like they are because you're pushing the gay agenda?
No, I wasn't aware of that. That's kind of silly too. So let me finish. But no, the answer to that question, no. Well, let me just give you full detail. The reason I was on this side of not wanting that interstate there is because I believe that was infringing upon not just economic growth in the city, but it was totally disconnecting a majority poor black community on this side from being able to experience all the growth on this side. Also, from an environmental standpoint, I didn't think that was healthy for our city. So people on this side, which was the previous administration and all that, said, no, we're going to push through. We end up settling. So we met right here in the middle. And a part of this settlement package was to create an environment, put the interstate back there, but create an environment where it's conducive to some form of not hampering quality of life. What does that look like? The state and the people on this side thought about an idea to make lights. We thought about an idea to say, hey, should it look under there? Skate park, dog park, a place for people to tailgate, what do you call it? Some type of food truck scene and all that type of stuff. And then we came to a compromise and we settled. But those are state lights, not city lights. Right. Those are state lights controlled by the state. They picked the color. They didn't ask for us permission what colors they should be. They didn't tell us what they were going to be. We don't know how they operate. I think it's crazy that they're on 24 hours because you wouldn't leave the lights on at your house all day. So if there is any agenda, it is to make it aesthetically nicer because you got an interstate that's in the middle of a city that separates a black community in the form of Fountain Heights and Druid Hills from the central business district.
Gotcha. Okay, rolling along. I've attended several political forums around the city. I was at one this Thursday evening. I've noticed that you are not at any of them, but you're here with us this morning. Is there a reason why you're not attending the other forums or have not attended? And if so, can you share?
Okay, there are a lot of forums. There are actually a lot of forums in the city to the point where some forums literally just pop up at the last minute, so there's been scheduling conflicts. Then there are other forums where I know the design is not meant to support me. They're meant to, for whatever political reason, to some type of stunt.
Okay. If you mind if I cut in right there?
You cut as long as you want.
This is purely conjecture on my part, but do you believe that, like myself, that those forums, you just said, they're set up with some political scheming going on. So do you feel like there are those in that community of those forums that are out to attack certain political or politicians, yourself being one?
What I believe is that there is an agenda, and I'm not their guy, and that's okay. What I also believe is which is pretty clever and cool, actually. Exert enough public pressure to force somebody to do something you want them to do.
Okay. So now, are you willing to share with the public here on record who you believe those people are?
Yeah, sure. I think it's some folk who they want tax dollars. So let me break this down.
Okay.
I became mayor November of 2018. I sat down with a gentleman. He says, hey, I got an idea. My idea costs $80,000. It's going to help decrease crime or gun violence in the city of Birmingham. I respond and say, cool, let me see it. His plan was 1 page. I says, this all you got? He says, yes. I says, okay. You said it's 80,000, right? He says, yes. I says, how much of that, for that plan to work, of that 80,000, how much you want from the city of Birmingham? His response is all of it. I respond and I say, it doesn't work like that. The way tax dollars work, at the root of tax dollars, I'm responsible for public safety and public infrastructure. So no one else is responsible for your lights and your streets and parks and sidewalks and police and fire, emergency management, paramedics. However, if you have a nonprofit organization or you're individual and you got a service you want to provide, the reason we don't 100% fund what you want to do is because if there's anything, let's say, like a global health pandemic, and I have to choose between paving the street and supporting your organization at 100%, I'm going to choose the street. So come back to me when you got other people that want to support your effort, and the city will participate, but we just can't participate at 100% of the costs, 100% of your requests, which is 100% of your budget.
Gotcha. Okay. So hindsight always been 20/20. As you sit here today and look back on our yesterdays and yesterweeks and time gone by, and we're looking at the pandemic at its height, would you, if it happened again, and as a reoccurring event, and it most likely will be, if we're listening to the pontiffs of today's forecast, would you again put 500 people out of work in the midst of this pandemic?
So first, I didn't put 500 people out of work. Out of 3,500 employees, we had close to about 200 of them that were furloughed for 8 weeks only. Prior to that, what we saw as a city in real time in March, April, May, and June, actually. And so we track city finances on a quarterly basis. In addition to that, if anybody knows how city government municipal budget works, it works based on projections.
Right.
Not real hard cash, projections. But the projections are based on prior history or past tense real information. So with that, the last 2 weeks of March, all of April of 2020, all of May of 2020, and all of June of 2020, before a new fiscal year starts, July 1 of 2020, we lost $17 million in tax dollars. If you multiply 17 million times 4, that's how you get the 60 million plus projected budget deficit. We didn't pass the budget July 1 because we needed to see some more real numbers. So those real numbers were still trending low in July and August, et cetera, for a budget we didn't pass until October 1. But in passing that budget, here's what we also saw. The library system, the recreation system, and a few other systems were not providing the service. They were totally shut down. Unfortunately, those employees were not in a position to actually provide a city service. They were at home. Our public works employees, our fire employees, our police employees, and the majority of all our other employees were still coming to work every day. Those employees were not, because their facilities were shut down and they were not able to provide a public service. But they were still being paid in March, in April, in May, in June, in July, in August, in September, and October 1, what we decided to do based on those projections is to furlough them for 8 weeks, and they were still able to keep their health benefits and then come back to work and be paid full time.
So, last question. I thank you so much for your honesty. What's the plan going forward if we're faced again with similar challenges?
Well, you had the prior president create a lot of money, and you got the current president that's created a lot of money. You also had us as an administration create something called the Birmingham Strong, which was we created a local fund to support existing small businesses and entrepreneurs to help them stay afloat, as well as support their hourly employees, which we saved about 1,000 jobs and about somewhere between 80 and 90 businesses. Literally 2 days ago, and probably about 6 people have sent me this article from the Wall Street Journal talking about Birmingham recovering from the economy based on our economy being more diverse, healthcare, financial services, what do you call it? I guess, I can't think of the other industry, but these industries have been recession-proof. That has allowed us to recover faster, as well as the local support we put on the ground for investing in our small businesses who only had about 14, 21 days cash on hand strapped. All of that combined, our economy is better. Here's what scares me. I went to the BJCC last night, concert hall, got in line, give me I'm in the church, but to get me a Bud Light, sorry. The lady who takes my order, she recognized me. She says, "Thank you for getting us back to work. Today's my first day back. I'm not even in uniform, but I rushed down here." They've been out of work since March of 2020 when everything shut down. The Sheraton Hotel, which is by definition a convention hotel, their numbers are based on the BJCC's ability to get conventions. So we got all these other industries back up. Things are ramping up, right? And now you got this Delta variant in place. But what's been consistent since March is tourism is not back to where it needs to be. Sheraton Hotel is still not open. But we got concerts and other type of stuff coming back. What we have to do is push people to get vaccinated, not for tourism or economic development's sake, but mainly because we need to save people's lives' sake. But the more people be vaccinated, the more we get this virus under control, then there's a ripple with the economy being able to recover at a faster rate, which includes the city of Birmingham being able to do tourism, attract dollars, resources, taxes, et cetera, to allow us to provide services. Everything that comes in, we put out, but if it don't come in, we can't put out. So based on your last question, if that small business closes and it closes permanently, then we no longer receive a business license tax. If their employees aren't working, we don't receive occupational taxes. And if their customers don't come in, we don't receive sales taxes. And if there is no tourism and convention in the city, we don't receive lodging taxes. And I can go on and on about the ripple here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Mayor.
Hello, sir.
First question, when you first got into office, one of your first big initiatives is you put that money in for the stadium. Many people would say that, one, it was a bad financial investment, and two, it went directly against the campaign that you ran against. So it kind of shocked most of us. Can you explain to us why did you make that decision and what was your thinking behind it?
Yeah, brother. Favorite question so far. Pastor Heaton beat you, sir. All right. Yes, sir. So listen, everybody, check this out. I think some folk got amnesia. Yeah, I ain't gonna never let it get it twisted what I say, because I'm very clear about the words I use. When you're a trained lawyer for 8 years, you have to be clear about what you say. Check the record, somebody pull a tape, because it's public information. On a stage like this at the Harbor Center on 4th Avenue North, in a debate between William Bell, Chris Woods, and myself, we were all asked a question, do you support a new stadium or not? And when the question got to me, I answered yes. On the record as a candidate for mayor 4 years ago. But I also said in saying yes, we're not going to talk about it for 4 years, and the city of Birmingham is not going to 100% fund it. It is a $180 million stadium, and the city is paying 50% for it. So $90 million from the city of a $180 million project, I kept my word. I said I support it, and we're not going to fully fund it. $40 million comes from the private sector. $30 million comes from Jefferson County commissioners that one of my opponents is part of. And the rest of funding is from the state through the whatever tax I forgot that the state legislators did. So this is a joint public-private partnership between the state of Alabama, Jefferson County Commission, city of Birmingham, and the private sector, and I stand on my word. And I ain't gonna let nobody play me and say I went back on my word, because that debate is public record. Pull it. I support the stadium as a candidate 4 years ago, and we're not gonna pay the whole thing, and that's what I did. If you really wanna know, previous administration said they would pay $5.5 million. So when I got to the table, they was like, will you pay 5? The answer is no. Will you pay 4.5? No. Will you pay 4? No, I will pay half. That's what happened. I'm not done.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Far from done.
Go ahead.
Far from done, because this is one of those things I rarely get an opportunity to explain in detail at length what's at bay here. Every day, young people leave the city because they say they're bored and they want to go to Nashville to have fun. They want to go to Atlanta, New Orleans, other cities. By the way, older people do too. They go to other places. So the stadium has been the conversation for not 10 years, not 20, not 30. It's been a 40-year conversation that every single one of my predecessors have had. So we're going to do it or not talk about it. Let me tell you why we did it. When you go to these other cities, when you go to Atlanta, here's what you got. You have the Georgia Convention Congress Center, World Congress Center, whatever they call it. It's their convention space next to a football stadium, next to a basketball arena. And they attract all this convention tourism right there. When you go to Arlington, Texas, outside of Dallas, you literally have their professional baseball team here, their Dallas Cowboys here in the middle of that. You got a hotel and you got restaurants. You go to all these other cities I can name, they have similar formulas where their convention space is next to their arenas, whether it's football, basketball, or one or both. The $90 million is a long-term investment broken out by 3 years where the economic development return is very critical to our city as well as to our tourism and our growth. Do you want to go to Nashville for the same convention we can have here? Do you want to go to Atlanta for the same convention we can have here? Do you want to drive 4 hours to New Orleans for the same convention you can have here? So my predecessor started something that I finished because it's been talked about for 40 years. When we broke ground, it wasn't the first or second time. It was the third time the ground was broke at this site, y'all. But keep going. What y'all think they put the Westin Hotel there for? Just because? What you think they did the Uptown restaurants there? Just because? What you think they put Topgolf there for? Just because? All this has been intentionally designed. So in that intentional design, the stadium is not even the last thing, but it was a major piece that's been missing for 40 years, part of the economic development / tourism growth of the identity the city of Birmingham wants to have. I'm finishing what my predecessor started, which included Larry Langford and William Bell. But the conversation started as early as Richard Ayrton. One last note on this. What I did was create a neighborhood revitalization fund that says the tax dollars generated from this area once the stadium is in place and we got all these folk kicking it in our city before game, during game, post game, that money goes into a fund to pave these streets, remove that blight, fix these parks, and all the other things I said we would do. So anybody, no, for the 99 neighborhoods. So for anybody that tell you I went back on my word, Brother, they lying to you.
So in the next 4 years, what is the projected numbers from that investment so that we could get to those for the 99 neighborhoods?
The original projections we got when the economic development study was first done and presented to me, that I presented to the council, I believe, was about $9+ million a year.
So, all right. My next question. Of course, some people have some concerns about the school system and the school system budget currently under your administration. That's something that you have focused on as well. Can you explain to us or let us know why the budget is where it is now, and what can we expect if we vote for you again in the next 4 years to see it going up instead of going down?
Yeah, so this is another one of those things where I imagine my opponents came in here and popped off and said all type of crazy stuff, slanted rumors, not the truth. The city of Birmingham, on this side of the room, has a $450 million budget. When I was on the school board's separate pot, their own budget was $280 million. And now it's $300 million. In addition to that $300 million, we support education in Birmingham with an additional $3 million. Now, what they want to come in here and tell you is that I just took their money. What they're not going to tell you is my good relationship with Dr. Lisa Herring, now Dr. Mark Sullivan, and when we make financial decisions on behalf of the school, they're not in isolation. I talked to the superintendent before I talked to the city council. I talked to the superintendent before I talked to the school board, because both of us are the CEOs, and we're actually in partnership. So any one of those superintendents, past or current, will tell you any decisions we make, whether it's financial or whatever support, we don't make it in isolation. So you'll never get Dr. Superintendent Sullivan to say we took from the schools, because that did not happen. What we did was say, Superintendent Sullivan, Superintendent Herring, we have an idea called the Birmingham Promise. What happened in the past is we give you a $3 million blank check. Do with it what you will. We got an idea that $3 of that $1.2 million should go to apprenticeships for your high school students to be paid $15 an hour. That started in 18. That went in 19, now 20. And in 2021, that remaining $1 million now goes to mental health services. Now, you tell me which of my opponents have said anything about how they would spend that $3 million. What they want you to believe, what they want you to accept, is that I don't support children. And what they don't get is, you can take this whole job from me. My interest and number one priority still is going to be our youngest generation. Now, to be clear, $3 million is a drop in the bucket. It's nothing. And so what we got to continue to do is rev up. We got the $2 million for the apprenticeships for these same high school students that are only Birmingham children to make $15 an hour, and I dare one of my opponents to say they want to take away that program. And I got this $1 million here for mental health services when I speak to nurses and principals, that they say thank you because that's what we need. So what do they need besides mental health services? They need conflict resolution, 3rd through 12th grade. That's the next step. They need financial literacy, 3rd through 12th grade. That's the next step. Do we have enough tax dollars to do that in isolation? No. And if they had enough tax dollars, they would have done it by now. So neither one of us have it alone. Even when you combine our stuff, we don't. So we go out here and partner with the private sector. And that's how we get those next 2 things. But it doesn't stop there. We'll do Thrive by 5 as well, and invest in birth to 5 years of age to make sure we set the foundation for those same children entering Birmingham City schools. Yes.
I got one more question. I'm waiting on the minute.
Yes.
Don't stop being rude to the minute.
Age, birth to 5 years of age.
Let me say this, Mayor, too, just so I'm very clear. None of my questions that I'm asking you come nothing from the opponents.
I'm with
just
you.
letting you know
I'm with
that
you.
these are my concerns.
It's all good,
my
brother.
thoughts. No. My last question, to be on, Mayor, when you got into office, created a position for the LGBT community, which I believe that is an admirable thing to do. However, my concerns is, or my thoughts is, we have not had, in my opinion, that I'm aware of by news or any other information that I researched, where there was a issue of violence or threats towards that community in Birmingham. Can you explain to me, was that proactive, reactive, or why did you create this office?
It's proactive.
Explain.
Birmingham is a blueberry and tomato soup. Do you know what that means?
I have no clue.
Does anybody know what blueberry and tomato soup mean?
It don't sound good. Just don't sound good.
Thank you. He just said
Okay.
it. He just said it.
Okay.
There you, so look, the light just went out. Blueberry and tomato soup.
Gotcha.
You get it?
Gotcha. No, sir.
And so in the other 67 counties, in Montgomery, there's a full assault on the LGBTQ community right now. That's existed before I became mayor. There was also an index related to the Human Rights Commission that said the city of Birmingham as a government, out of a score of 100, was only at a 12 related to how it interacts with its citizens. What I did was say very plain, I want you to look me in my eyes, brother. In the position I am in as mayor, it is my responsibility to treat everybody fairly. And if anybody's not treated fairly, with the platform I have is to create a plane where city government and our community is more inclusive. It's not negotiable. So in creating an office and hiring Josh Coleman, it wasn't just to check a box. It wasn't just about going from 12 to 100. It wasn't just about hiring a person. It was really about making the city of Birmingham a more inclusive city. We can do that. We've done that. We still got work to do. And it's not a matter of picking and choosing. It's just a matter of doing the right thing.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
I'm Rolanda Hollis. First, I want to say, when people are running for various seats, it's easy to say what you're going to do until your behind is in the seat. Then you see what it is, what's going on, and what's happening. And I'm saying that because you spoke earlier about you being the CEO, and what people also have to realize is that you got 9 vice presidents that work up under you too, that has to also help make the decisions within this city. Like I am one of 105, which means I am 1 vote of 105 in that state house. First, let me say this to you. I want to thank you for what has been talked about in years and years and years and years in my district is putting those flashing stop signs on Lawson Road, which we've had so many accidents. Also having the Mitsubishi dealership come up within the district and the new Circle K on the Parkway too. And I have to, give you your props because one thing that I will say that you have always answered my phone calls. And anytime I have asked you to appear when I'm doing a community event, you're there. And I don't have to twist your arm and I don't have to chase you and I have to keep calling you. And I want to say thank you for that. But my questions to you is that, I'm just going to tell the truth. And the other thing that we still do need other things on that east side as far as grocery stores and other things, and you and I, we have talked about that. But my question is a four-part question to you is, and I heard you say about the $1 million going toward mental health. Okay, and so my questions are, I want to know, number one, what is the plan with the land banking? 2, how are we going to decrease the crime in our city? 3, what are we going to do about the homelessness in our city? Because what I have noticed is that a lot of homeless people are migrating on the east side. And the last question is, how are we, and I know you've been working with this, but I want to know the rest of the plan, if you can give it, on how we're going to help our small black businesses, small businesses, period, but especially the small black businesses, because we know that we're supposed to get 30%, we get less than 10%, and we know that a lot has to do with the bonding and as far as the businesses. And I'm gonna say this too before I sit down. A mutual friend of ours said that it's always easy to run a city when the city is doing well and everything is doing well. It's when you have issues like the pandemic and other things come to show how strong you are as a leader to make the important decisions as far as to keeping the city moving. And I just want to thank you for the work that you have done, and I will be sitting down to listen to my 4 questions.
Yes, ma'am. By the way, Representative, you triggered a memory, and it was to the Pastor McClure Sr.'s last question about our employees. I forgot to tell you, sir, we made our employees whole. Our employees got a $5,000 premium pay prior to the same fiscal year ending where they actually lost pay for the 8 weeks of the furlough. So they actually received more than they lost in the same fiscal year between July 1 and June 30th. I made up, and I made them whole, and I made them better. To her 4 points, I will go with the land bank first. Let me thank you. Let me thank your other colleagues that are part of the Jefferson County delegation and the senators, especially Linda Madison Coleman, who first pushed what we said, the problem in Birmingham. Just a short snippet of the problem. I told you, we tear down a dilapidated, burned out structure, and then you got the empty lot that already exists here, so all of a sudden you got Snaggletooth neighborhoods, if you can get that description. So, acquiring the property has been such a hurdle, and you know this is state law, so state law is pro-property rights, period. It doesn't matter if it's a absentee landlord or a slum landlord, which we have our outsized share of them compared to so many other areas of the entire state. With that being the case, the first thing you all have helped us do this year that just ended, the legislative session that ended, to acquiring went from 5 years to now going into effect 3 years. So that has been helpful. That's 1. 2 is leadership. Caroline Douglas is the interim executive, and it was up to me. I would find a way to make her permanent. I stole her, snatched her from another area that she was doing very well in, and she has since been a godsend. And I don't say that word a lot. Caroline Douglas, she now leads the land bank, and the land bank required leadership. She has a board she works with, and they are moving and grooving as it relates to priorities, which for us too is acquiring properties. And now they've acquired over 700 plus of them. And so now the next step is to engage the actual court system and make that process more efficient, dealing with our local judges, which is not. Once we do that, we then want to do a joint thing in this hand, be more aggressive with the average citizen who would just like to acquire the lot next to them with a side lot program and making that more effective. And if that property is valued at $5,000, but the citizen doesn't have that $5,000, what can we do? Working through that. But literally, last week, knocking on doors in Collegeville, talked to a citizen that acquired the lot next to him years ago, now wants to acquire the lot next to that because that's how many houses have been torn down in his block. In this hand, working with groups who want to make smart investments, minority investments, et cetera, to make sure there's more accelerated development related to single-family homes, because majority of that has to be pushed by the private sector. It can't be pushed by public dollars, but we can support the work. So that's the answer to the land bank. On the crime, I want everybody to know, as a loud rain, I want everybody to know that related to crime, victims of gun violence are not the only victims of crime. I also want you to know that one victim is too many. And so a victim of rape, they're victims of rape, they're victims of assault, they're victims of burglary, they're victims of robbery, they're victims of theft and auto thefts, etc. And in every crime category, with the exception of gun violence and / homicides, and unlawful breaking and entering into vehicles, every other crime category is down. So our robberies are down, which is always a heinous crime. Our felony assaults are down. Our burglaries are down. Our auto thefts are down. And all these other crimes are down with the exception of 2. And they're both attached to gun violence. Unlawful breaking and entering into vehicles, the number one thing people are looking for is actually legal guns. not your money, not your GPS. They're looking for legal guns. And then homicides. Last Monday, not today, but last Monday, we were at 63 homicides in 2021 compared to 59 of 2020. Related to gun violence, we're not going to arrest our way out of this. You have to look at it from a holistic approach, which includes 3 areas: prevention, enforcement, reentry. Again, that's prevention, enforcement, and reentry. On the enforcement side, what we have done is taking over 5,000 illegal guns off the street since 2018. And I'll be honest with you, Representative, without state help, without federal help, we can take them off every day. And I take that one off and it will be replaced by 3 guns back on the street faster than I took the one off. Because this is America, and we don't necessarily have the local laws we need to have better ways to get these guns off our streets. On prevention, what we've done, I know since 19, is partner with various organizations that deal in conflict resolution. And on enforcement, on reentry, what we've done is literally create a program, and through partnerships like Danning Project, et cetera, to make sure our returning citizens from state custody and federal custody can transition back into their community and their city and help get their license, help get their CDLs, and help get these other certificates so they don't have to go out here and commit the same crimes or get in the same issues or hang with the same element that put them in state custody or federal custody in the first place. Our work, we believe, is working because all these categories are decreased with the exception of homicides, which is up in every urban core in America, so this is not isolated to a Birmingham problem. And I'm not going to pretend like this is just stats, because every time somebody's killed, I think about my own brother that was shot and killed. Every single time somebody's killed, I think about my own nephew that was killed 4 years ago when I was a candidate in August. And so, as a city government, we're doing everything we can, but city government alone can't solve this issue. And I know there's a lot of noise out here about, well, if you just partner with my program, I could solve crime. Let me be very clear about this. If your program was working, then it would have been solved by now. So I'm not necessarily hitting at somebody. I'm just saying the same people making all the noise want 100% of their money from the city of Birmingham. And if your program was so good, why isn't any other person or organization or your own organization giving money to support the effort you're doing?
No, he's still answering my question. Can you hold it to?
She got 2 more issues: homelessness and small black businesses.
Y'all gonna stop jumping in front of me because I'm a woman.
So on homelessness, I'll try to speed my answers up. On homelessness, Birmingham gets a lot of things right. We specialize in emergency housing. We know how to give food. So when I became mayor, I looked at all the organizations we have that deal in homelessness, and it's like a list of them. Literally, the list is probably from the top of that ceiling all the way to here.
Yeah.
And they get emergency housing right. They get it so right, we even invest in it. City tax dollars, we did an additional $1 million over the last 4 years towards additional emergency beds in this city. We support one roof. And now when police go out on a call, we bring a non-sworn officer to assist and assess what are the needs of that homeless person. A lot of people like that, some don't. They like, why won't you arrest them? Well, you can't arrest your way out of homelessness either, no more than you can arrest your way out of decreasing gun violence.
I would like to see the list circulate to more people, so when we do see them, we can at least direct them to where to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's getting to a problem where, even in front of my place of business, You know, they want to nap out, and depending on the time of day, sometime I ask them to move and sometime I don't. It depends on, you know, if it's doing work hours, you know, I ask them to leave, but if it's not, then I let them stay. So I would like to have that information, and as well as, you know, to get it out to anybody else so we can direct these people on that there is a place for you to go.
There are two more things we get right. We provide food, and we provide warming stations and cooling stations.
Right.
But let me tell you what we get wrong. And homelessness, what the city of Birmingham's gotten wrong, and other cities have too, long-term housing, which is the #1 issue, and probably tied for first place is mental health. Now, embedded in mental health is a veterans hospital that's top-notch to provide services for our homeless folk that are veterans. But a significant portion of them are not veterans. And again, this is one of those situations where I know you use your voice and your platform because you have seen in Montgomery year by year a decrease in mental health services. And if you all don't provide the tax dollars, you know cities don't have enough tax dollars to support mental health services, not just for those who are homelessness, but period in our city,
Absolutely.
including for certain 911 calls. Therefore, we need our legislators to make better decisions. Not you, but your colleagues need to reinstate more resources towards mental health services, period. In the last play, Secretary Fudge, the Secretary of HUD, don't write this, Greg. I see your pen. I saw that. Don't write that. Don't write what I'm about to say, please. Hopefully she'll be here soon. Let me just say it that way since we are being recorded, so I can't separate y'all too. But the secretary will be here, and part of our conversation will be for me to thank her in person for the $5 million she's given City of Birmingham towards addressing homelessness. I'm gonna go out here and flip that $5 million, partner with the faith-based community as well as the private sector, increase that 5 to build a tiny home project. Look, Greg over there writing. Greg, don't write that part yet. Public don't know that yet. I need to detail that out. So, your last point is small black businesses. We've done 2 things. We created the VITAL program. No, we've done 3. We created the VITAL program that says, this is, and put ourselves on Front Street. This is how much money in business, with your tax dollars, we've done towards supporting black, women, minority-owned. Last year, the baseline, it was $24 million. We're not proud of that number. It's low. But we should only be able to go up from there. How do you go up? 2 ways, which are the other 2 things. One, we are in the middle of an actual disparity study. We do not have the results of that study yet. There hasn't been one done in over 20, 30 years, I think.
And excuse me, when you speak, if you would, when you think of, and I hear you when you say minority-owned businesses.
Black women, I got you.
There you go. That's what I want. That's what I want to hear. I want to
Yes,
talk
ma'am.
about the black women that own businesses, because we're the ones out here that's suffering. You know, the white woman is the ones that's taking our work. So I just want to think. I want you to put in your head. You know, I know we are for all people, but I want to know about somebody that look like me and that own a business like me.
All right.
Okay.
So we create the small business diversity arm within economic development, hire Monique Shorts. Her job is to engage small business owners, especially around black women, who I'm defining as minority and black owned. Part of that is we created a small business advisory council that makes recommendations to us. Our next thing we do, past the diversity study, is to focus on providing actual access to capital to our small black businesses and our women businesses. We partner with MasterCard. So MasterCard is now in place for that same small business or that black-owned business or that black-owned women business where, let's say, you currently can only accept cash payments. MasterCard now comes in and elevates your process and your customer experience by helping you build out your website so you can have presence online. So if you wanted to be a vendor at the World Games, you would need to have some online access. MasterCard now is partnering with Birmingham to assist you as a small black woman business owner with that if you do not have that, as well as if you only accept cash, to be in a position to help you and provide the service that you can now accept credit or check card or any other form of a debit to enhance your customer experience, to not only keep your existing customer base, but grow your customer base, who no longer is either walking into a bank or keep actual cash on them.
Okay. That's it. Bishop, you may come up now with your question. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, let's see. I wanted to piggyback on something that she was saying. I'm trying to remember where that point was. I think it might have been about crime in the area. Your position, if anything, on regarding the morale of the police department. The things that I've heard is that it's low at this point. Can you speak to that anyway, or do you know?
Yeah, so morale is not low, Bishop. Morale is not low. Audience and audience viewing on the camera, I'm gonna look at you too and say morale is not low. What you got is a buddy system that's not working anymore. What you got is an old school system that doesn't work anymore. What you got is a black and white system that doesn't work anymore. You got a new police chief that's a Boy Scout and he holds people accountable and they don't like it. What you got is a lawyer with a police union that represents her members when they get in trouble and is mad that the chief won't negotiate down their punishment and try to just give them a slap on the wrist. What you got is a chief that's so tight in their cases, when they go to fire people, they resign in lieu of termination. What you also got is a police chief that, since he's been here, has only had 3 things overturned from internal affairs. He ain't playing, I'm not playing. We want good police officers because at the same time, you got a national and a local conversation about police accountability and about police reform. And you're gonna treat our citizens right. Now, we're gonna take care of our police. We're gonna give them a cost of living adjustment. We're gonna give them longevity pay. We're gonna take care of their pension. We're gonna give them merit pay. We're gonna support them, invest them, and get them proper equipment and systems and all of that. And we're gonna get them better cars and all of that. But in exchange for all of that, you are going to be held accountable how you interact with our citizens. And if you're not, then you can't be PPD. And if that's the new definition of low morale, I don't know how to respond.
Well, I did want you to speak to it because that is the accusation that's being made. There are also other accusations that you said you would support faith-based community efforts, but yet there's a group, I think that you're aware of, that is challenging that statement to reduce crime in the community and saying that you do not support. I want you to just speak to that you don't support their efforts.
Well, so let's go global, and then I can go micro on what you said. Globally, I've prided myself on working with the faith-based community in Birmingham, even prior to being mayor. Prior to being mayor, on the school board, serving as board president for those 2 years. The faith-based community has always reached out first in support of programs, partnerships, and supporting individual schools to get direct resources to schools. When I became mayor, that didn't change. What happened is very simple, Bishop. A lot of people in this community out, they support me, I'm their guy. And then there are a handful of folk, I'm not their guy and I never will be. And they will make noise and make up things because I'm not their guy. And in this situation, I think that's what you got going. I'm just not their guy, and that is okay. They will do character assassination, they will lie, they will jump up and down, they will scream, they will tell you I'm the worst person in the world. And what they really mad at us about is that I won't give them tax dollars. And no, I'm not gonna give you tax dollars if you tell me, here, I want $29 million and you only give me a 1-pager. And if you come back and tell me we made a mistake, I'm supposed to put a dot in between that $29 million, that's supposed to be $2.9 million, and give me the same piece of paper, I'm not gonna give you $2.9 million. And if you come back to me and say I only want $400,000, and I will respond and say, I'll tell you what, if you tell me another organization give you 100, another organization give you 100, I'll match that 100, and I still don't have it, then you're not gonna get the 100 or the 400. I will give you 40,000 though, which I've done. And to this group, I gave them 40,000 back in 19. And then I had to write the paperwork for them so they can get it. So tell them to stop playing with me.
Well, I think you just did. All right, so.
But I'm not, Bishop. I know I'm being recorded, so I want to make this very clear. I'm not giving them anything. You do not get to assassinate my character and think I'm going to give you something in exchange. I don't yield to that type of public pressure. First of all, it's not my tax dollars. If I'm held accountable for tax dollars, then you got to be tight with your paperwork on what you want. It don't matter how much you jump up and down. It's not my money. It got to clear legal. It has to clear audits. Where your paperwork, man? How political these folk want to be? You can't be a bully and in exchange think a person is going to yield and just give you money and your paperwork not even tight. That's all.
This seems reminiscent of similar extortion tactics that have been used in some other cities. Are you familiar with any other things where groups have come with that type of attitude? Give us this, or else we will do this to you. Have you had to deal with that? Because one of the things we want to do is support people who are going to stand for truth. Have you had other experiences like that?
Not at this level, no, sir.
And you're saying that clergy groups have done that?
I'm saying certain folk who may be affiliated with something that I hold high, behavior is definitely not of the cloth that I would expect.
Okay, well, let's make the point clear. With gatekeepers, we have never asked you for anything, and we will never ask you for any funding for anything.
The street term, Bishop, we Gucci. You straight, sir. You good. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I just want that understood. I don't like being classified in certain groups. So you do support community-based, faith-based efforts. Now,
Yes, 100%. I want to make that clear. I support community-based efforts that are led by or co-sponsored by or co-worked by our faith community. In any organization that's in the streets, that participate in violence disruption, that participate in engaging hands-on, I support. But that support, if you want it attached to tax dollars, got to be tight, Bishop. And if it's not tight, you're not going to get tax dollars. I don't know why that's rocket science to people. And we're not, if your program is $1, do not come to the city of Birmingham and ask for $1. We do not fund your project at 100% of your requests, nor do we fund your project at 100% of your budget. It might as well be our program. Why does that not make sense? No, it's a serious question. I know I'm being asked a question, but maybe it's a rhetorical question.
But why would someone believe that they should come for 100% of funding for the city anyway? Has that been a previous practice?
Must have, sir.
Okay.
Just for the record, those same organizations would have got cut last year due to the coronavirus, and then they would have blamed us for not being able to fund them because they had no other sources of resources or partners. The Birmingham, this administration wants to be a partner. But the definition of partnership is like other people at the table, not just city tax dollars. I find it very perplexing that no other organizations or people have given to this cause of this particular group of people. Something's wrong with that. Just a thought.
Okay. There's another challenge that community speaks about, a connection with a large megachurch in the area without communicating with other churches. If you remember that particular thing, you want to speak to that?
2018, I sat down with Pastor Hodges. I had the Pastor Hodges, Church of the Highlands. He said he wanted to do certain things in the community. And my response was, thank you. He went back into his pulpit. He told his members what he had a conversation with me. He said all the things he was going to do. And a group of clergy took that as if I was giving him the bag. They took that as if I was giving him resources, giving him tax dollars, giving him money. And the man never asked for $1, sir. He never asked for one thing. There are rare moments where people come into City Hall, tell me this is my thought, this is my plan, this is what I want to do, and then don't ask for anything. So whatever their issues were or are with him, what they did was attach us and say, I'm not with black clergy, I'm not with black pastors, I'm not with black faith leaders, I don't care about the black community. Sir, that's offensive. It's wrong, it's inappropriate. There are a whole lot of other words I can use. But talking to him is no different than everything I've done in 17, 18, 19, 20, and now 2021. I talk to faith leaders throughout the entire city and all out in our neighborhoods about issues in their community where their church is, about what they want to do, how we can partner. Like I said, there's certain folk, I'm just not their guy. So it doesn't matter what I do, or in this case, dealing with what their one page or what I won't do. Just not their guy.
Well, the reason all I'm asking these questions is for clarity. I've had certain accusations made similar that without getting the full information. One other thing that I grew up in this city, it's been my home all my life. The Civil Rights District that we talk about was once a very thriving area of black businesses. Do you have any funds, do you have no plans, I should be saying, for proposals for the Civil Rights District to restore, get a renaissance in that particular area? Of course, you know, I'm involved with the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame, which is there, and so we're there, but we want to see more minority businesses come in there. And one of the things that is a challenge is that the statement is made that you're open to certain other businesses coming in, but not promoting minority enterprise. Can you speak to that particular challenge?
Yes, sir. City of Birmingham has 22 small business districts. They're scattered throughout the city. You got downtown North Birmingham, you got downtown Inslee and downtown Pratt, Woodlawn and Eastlake and Avondale, and I go on and on. I'm not going to name all 22. We knew, just like that mother or that grandmother who stayed in that particular neighbor in that block, we couldn't get to every block in 44 months. We couldn't get to all 22 business districts in 44 months, but we set a priority, and we set a priority for two. Number one, downtown Inslee. So you see the investments we made. McCormick's now torn down. We see that as a flagship. We see the McCormick to what the brewery of Avondale is, which is an anchor that's supported on the other end of that anchor by Green Space Avondale Park, and now you have all these small businesses in between, eateries, restaurants, etc. We see anchor in all these other small business districts like Lakeview, and I can go on and on. Crestwood has an anchor of the park. Now it has the filling station. It has all these small businesses in that little small corridor parking lot. What we believe for the Northwestern District is several different anchors. The biggest anchor is the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute that is over 25 years old. And the excitement that people have about EJI today is the excitement I want people to have about BCRI. And you have to build that, sir. I love the new leadership there with DeWanna Thompson. I love her leadership of her new board chairman, Mr. Isaac Cooper. And they're both young, they're both fiery, and I think they are on to something as far as reimagining the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute related to its global place in the world. And what does that look like to attract foot traffic from all over the globe to our institute to show the world not only our history, but the continued fight in human rights and civil rights? What is the other anchor? It's right in front of your building, the Masonic Temple. Unfortunate part, the city of Birmingham does not own it. So we have to partner with the Masons and see who they were willing to accept in the private sector, ideally a black developer, to reimagine that building. And all of a sudden, that commercial footprint gets you foot traffic to support everything else that already exists there and potential growth next to it, et cetera, including your building, which you have the new Red Mountain Theater, you got lyric updates, you got Alabama Theater update and upgrades. Now it's time for something city-owned, that's by definition black-owned, to make real investments in, which we've already done. The construction part is done. Now it's time for the programmatic piece that gets you the same foot traffic.
Well, that's the intention. We do want to thank you for your support involved with the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame. And we do have intentions of doing a great work down here to bring people, since jazz has been something that has brought people all over the world together. Unity in jazz is what we're focusing on, because we want to see the community be centered around something that brings people together on something positive. As opposed, Birmingham has a negative history, but we think Birmingham also has a positive history that we have not focused on and we need to focus more on. And music can bring, and we have brought people in throughout all the world to come to that organization. We want to thank you for your support in that. And we were just wondering for the Civil Rights District there, if there were other plans. And so I think maybe you somewhat have answered that question there. Thank you. Any additional questions?
I want to congratulate yourself and Rolanda. Come on. How about y'all campaign?
Mr. Mayor, my question is a simple one. I appreciate all the questions before because they've helped me learn some things. You named all the grocery stores that will not come to Birmingham. Can you tell me why? What are their reasons for not coming to our city?
Gosh, that's,
What their reasons are, why they won't come.
I'm not gonna say what they've said to me.
Say.
I'm gonna interpret and then give you my thoughts. Profit.
Okay.
The grocery industry it's a tough game. Be very honest with you. And their margins are very small, but it's still a for-profit. So when you have a local grocer like Western Supermarket that had 14 stores, and then they go down to 8 or 6, and all of a sudden a grocer that's been here for years, right? I mean, that was my first job at 15 years of age, back in grocery at Western Supermarket. They're no longer in the industry. They're out because they got ate up. Then you go to certain footprints, and you have a Walmart, an Aldi, a Winn-Dixie, a Publix, all within like a mile of each other. And then what you have is the dollar game. Family Dollars, Dollar Generals, et cetera, coming to certain urban footprints. And so that profit keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller to where in their mind it doesn't fit. And my response is always the same. The black dollar is still green. And black communities like to eat healthy food. And them black grandmamas I keep meeting, one of their number one requests is a grocery store in proximity where they live. So when Dixie left West End, Western Supermarket left East, and I can go on and on. But it comes down to their ability to either they've lost money or they can't make money. Those are not their words exactly. My job is to wade through as many no's as possible until I get to a yes of bringing healthy food options to the city, and I will continue to do that.
I'd like to know their responses, because I take my tax dollars to Fultondale, to Trustful, to, what else is nearest? I'm not gonna come to Publix and Irondale. I wanna shop in a grocery store that is an upscale grocery store. Not that it matters, but Aldi's is great. But when I really wanna do grocery shopping, I wanna go where I can get all in one place. If I go to Aldi's, then I have to go to Publix to get some other things. And they're not within the city limits of Birmingham. I stay on this side of town, not going downtown to grocery shop. Not every time that I have to grocery shop. And I just wonder why they won't come within the parameters of the city of Birmingham when there's money to be made.
I agree. I think they do economic assessments, and they do everything. They do foot traffic, vehicle traffic studies. They base it off income based on the zip code. They have formulas that they base all this off. It includes those things I just named. It includes loss prevention, what they would possibly lose from theft, et cetera. They take all of that, and then they match it against the profit they would want to make, and that's when they say it doesn't fit.
One more question. The interstate and the lighting, whose responsibility is that?
Department of Transportation, the state of Alabama. And so while everybody's jumping up and down about that little 1 mile stretch downtown, that's not my priority. My priority is the citizens' priority, which is too dark going east and going west when you leave that stretch. So we've literally been working with the state, particularly between when 2059 converge, leaving Irondale, leaving Trustville, or leaving Pinson, whatever the first city is. And when you get before you get downtown, but when you get by the airport. So we now have a three-way partnership between Alabama Power, the state of Alabama, and the city's gonna put in on it because it costs millions to redo those lights. The reason they are out is not because of the light bulb. The reason they're out is because of copper thieves. And the state hasn't found a way to prevent the copper thieves from stealing the copper. So they need to change the poles. You don't have a lighting issue, you have a copper issue, which is why they've been out for so long. And they weren't quick enough. They put a light back up and they go out again. It was just because of copper. So we've been working with the state to find ways from a loss prevention standpoint on copper. You don't have a lighting situation.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much again for taking your time to give very detailed answers to all of our questions. I've asked this same question of all of the candidates thus far. You've spoken very well so far about the faith community in general, but my question has been about each of the candidates' personal faith. And so I wanted to ask you if you could describe for us, for those that are listening, and this may be important to them, if you could tell us about your personal relationship with Jesus Christ and how that has already and could affect your daily decisions should you become reelected again as mayor. Thank you so much.
So I grew up in a household that were never less than 8 people. Keywords are less than. Sometimes it meant there's more than 8 people. No, like legit more than 8 people. But it was always cool. Because family was important to me. And with family being important, there's 4 generations in the house. My great-grandmother her name's Mary McGee, she was blind from diabetes. And I had a chance for many of those years to just sit at her foot. So if she was sitting right here, I would literally be sitting right there. And she taught me 2 character traits I believe are very important: listening and patience. My parents divorced. We moved in with my great-grandmother years before she actually moved in with us. My dad, my mom were going to 4th Avenue Baptist, which is now Living Word. And when they divorced, we started going to church with my great-grandmother, who attended 6th Avenue Baptist. And I could tell you about Living Word of 4th Avenue then. I remember peppermint. The old lady used to give me peppermint. That's what I remember. Waking up off the pew and slobs on the pew. I remember that type of stuff. But by the time I got to 6th Avenue, I was involved in children's choir, and I played the drums at the Christmas concerts, and Reverend Porter baptized me. And then I was involved in the in-step ministry, and I became the leader of the in-step ministry. And we were young. I was 15. Same year I got to start the job bagging groceries, I also became a leader of a step team at our church. And what I remember through those chants, I mean, we were cool. We were army fatigue and army boots. But I remember the chants talking about being Christian soldiers. And I remember we took it on tour. We just didn't do it on fifth Sundays when it was men's Sundays at our church. At a certain point, we took it on tour. And we were going to all these different church programs performing as young boys about being Christian soldiers. When I finished high school, Reverend Porter had this thing that he did for seniors, which included giving us a Bible with our names engraved in it. And it's literally, I got that Bible in 1999. It's literally the only Bible I still have. I've been given other Bibles since, but it's the only Bible I still use. In my house, I know where it is right now. Between what my great-grandmother taught me, not just about listening and patience, what she taught me about faith, what she taught me about giving back and helping, that's based in Christian principles. I'm literal sometimes, so I used to just ask her, what does that mean? I used to ask my mom what that meant too. Both of them always gave the same answer. It means Christ-like. So I've spent my life, especially since I was 15 and can actually remember, attempting to be Christ-like, helping others, being kind, being patient, help, help, help. I've tried to do that in my adult life as well. I don't necessarily believe it's isolated to attending church 52 Sundays in a building. I actually believe it's how I interact with other human beings outside of these actual church walls. So that's what I try to do. That relationship probably with God and Christ is through the form of prayers, thoughts, talking out loud, stuff like that. That's what I got for you. Yes, sir.
Hello again, Mr. Mayor.
What's up, sir?
Mike McClure, Sr. Real serious question, man. I thank you for your time today. I think since I've met you, we've had a great relationship. I've always been able to talk open and honest with one another. We've had several people come in, had several conversations over the weeks. One of the current themes or common threads that seem to run through the different ones that have come in is that the city is literally being sold away from us. And it's being handed over into the hands of others that don't particularly look like us and have our financial structures and all these different deals. What would you say concerning that?
They've been saying the same thing for 40 years, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And the only thing that's changed in the 40 years is the city's gotten blacker. Mm-hmm. So you got a city 130 miles away from us in Atlanta that used to be called Hot Atlanta, Black Mecca. Mm-hmm. And you can't say that no more, and all you got to do is track the voting history. Mm-hmm. D.C. was literally called Chocolate City, and it's probably like Mocha now. And I can go to all these other cities where you've had real gentrification. Mm-hmm. Show me in Birmingham where that exists. Mm-hmm. Show me. I'll wait. 10 years ago, the city was 74% black. 10 years later, the city is 74% black. The city has 99 neighborhoods. Last time I checked, Crestwood North has always been majority white. Crestwood South has always been majority white. Crestline has always been majority white. Eastwood has always been majority white. And the other 7 I didn't name because it's about a total 11 neighborhoods that are majority white, and the other 88 are majority black. But those 11 majority white neighborhoods have always been majority white. So Central City, which was a business district that's now a mixed district, you can't call that gentrification because nobody's been displaced.
What city is that?
Central City.
There's been some displacement. Wait. There's been some displacement.
Show
I don't
me.
disagree with
Show
you.
me where.
All across Central City.
Where?
Where are the original people that were there? They were displaced.
No, I'm talking about in the last 40 years. I'm sorry. You're right. Let me
Okay.
clarify what I'm saying.
Okay. The Hope 6, right.
Well, Hope 6 is still like probably close to over 90% black. You've had a decrease in the footprint because you don't have a mega site of concentrated poverty anymore,
Absolutely.
but it's still black.
Absolutely.
What I'm referring to is the residential area, 1st Avenue North, 2nd Avenue North, 3rd Avenue North, Morris, 1st Avenue South, 2nd Avenue South, 3rd Avenue South. They haven't displaced anybody. That's a fact. Also related to growth in this city, follow the schools. It's not like the school system is losing white children. It's more so white families never choose to put their children in. And so when we're losing 1,000 students a year, those are black families. The child enters time to go to kindergarten, they may leave. Child go to 6th grade, they may leave. Child go to 9th grade, they may leave. So we always talking about who's moving in, but we never talk about who's moving out. So black families are moving out.
Right.
She's in real estate. She sees the game every day.
So let's say I wake up the morning after your next 4 years. Let's say you win. You've now served another 4 years. I wake up the morning after your next 4 years. You with me? I meet you at a coffee shop. We sit down and talk. What are the 5 things that you believe you will be able to say to me that, Pastor Mike, these 5 things I got done that totally changed the future of Birmingham for the better?
We reimagine public safety. We tripled down on neighborhood revitalization. We made real gains and efforts in economic development. We invested in education. And let me tell you about this housing stock. So Vision 2025 is in detail at randallwoodfin.com. And it lays out those 5 things. It's going to lay out 4 in detail, but you asked for 5. And in detail, in reimagining public safety, what we've done is create a program that's so tight, not your generation, not my generation, but the generation under us, whoever they have a conflict with 10, 20 years from now when they're an adult, their first decision won't be to pull out a gun and shoot that person just because they disagree. Reimagining public safety says all of our returning citizens, we've created an on-ramp for them to literally be plugged back into this community. We got people who want to be police officers who are from and born and raised in this community, who serve this community, who look like the people they serve. Where we've not only banned chokeholds, where we've not only banned no-knock warrants, where we've not only created a civilian review board, but police officers and community have real relationships and trust. With neighborhood revitalization, we've not only removed all the blight I just described, but there are more single-family homes, rooftops in this city, and people who choose to live here. And that is attached to making sure our third graders can read at third grade level. We've created the foundation birth to 5 to lay the groundwork for K through 12. And our children understand financial literacy, and they understand conflict resolution, and we provide the mental health services. Vision 2025 says we will have decreased homelessness in our city and provided more long-term housing for our homeless community and more mental health services. Vision 2025 says I would be able to tell you that we actually had non-sworn officers respond to certain 911 calls that don't require an actual sworn officer to make sure people are safe. Some form of a counselor or a mental health person or something of that nature. Vision 2025 says that in all the efforts of air quality and all the efforts of opportunity and workforce, we made real investments. That not only our young people have the opportunity in white-collar jobs, but they have the opportunity in blue-collar related to plumbing and electrical and HVAC and so on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, Mr. Mayor, just in conclusion, and before we, well, I guess our moderator, no, you're here. We want to thank you. Thank you for spending the time with us. We really appreciate that. We try to set ourselves apart. We're not an attack group. We respect the human dignity of every candidate, so therefore we don't want anyone demeaning character. We've given the candidates opportunity to speak to policies, but we don't degrade the human being. And that's what we are as a group of pastors. And I want to say openly to everybody who may be observing this or watching it, that we don't pick a candidate that we're saying that people vote for this person. We merely want the people to get clear information without argumentation so that they may know exactly what you stand for and hopefully discern the truth as they pray in regards to that. And we're looking for other pastors that are interested in what's good for the community, not what's good for their pocketbook. And so we just can't associate with everyone. But we appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much. And we hope that in the future, that if you win this election, that you're going to be just as open with the gatekeepers as you have been previously. So I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Jody, which also needs to know that we are a diverse organization of pastors and denominations, black, white, and all different denominations. We don't care. In fact, yeah, you leave me alone. You stay out of this. This is the one sister over here that thinks that she has a right to just, because she's a sister, she expects respect, but because she's a sister, she's also saying she doesn't have to give it back in return. But that's, and so it's equal opportunity. Come on, you close, and that's, we're through with this. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Again, we just want to encourage everyone to listen to the voice of the Lord about who he's putting on your heart in terms of arise and anoint, for this is the one. And so thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for taking your time. Here's what we want to do, not just today, but know that we're praying for you and our other elected officials all the time, but with you with us, we wanted to be able to pray with you right here, right now. So those that are watching, take time to pray whenever you see this. Those that are here now, if you could just extend a hand and let's pray for Mayor Woodfin. As I was sitting there, just know the words that I'm going to pray, because I felt like the Lord was starting to show me what to pray. It's the same prayer I pray for myself. What I'm about to pray for you, it's going to be my prayer for everyone that's here and for everyone in Birmingham, so that we could become the city of his dreams. When we go to City Hall and their city council meetings, the words up there say that the people are the city. And so God's heart is for people, and God's heart is for us as his sons. So that's what my prayer is going to be about. Father, I just thank you for your son, Randall Woodfin, whom you have put upon the planet and brought to Birmingham, Alabama for such a time as this. And as he seeks to govern and lead and serve and help the citizens of Birmingham, Lord, your heart is for all of them, but your heart is for him right here, right now. This is your beloved Son, in whom you are well pleased, not for what he does or doesn't do, but for who he is and for whose he is. And Lord, your word says that you love us with an everlasting love and you draw us with your loving kindness. And it's often your goodness and your kindness that leads us to repentance, leading to true salvation. Lord, not merely a conformity to outward tradition without an inward conversion to the truth, but where we listen to that still small voice. And so, Lord, whether he seeks you when he puts his head on his pillow at night, when he rises in the morning, when he blesses a meal, when he drives or when he rides, when he goes about his day, Lord, you are around him and with him 24/7 because you are omnipresent, but you're also a very personal God. And Lord, I pray that you would begin to draw him to yourself and to your heart like never before. That he would hear the Father's voice in his ear saying, this is the way, walk in it. And Lord, he, like me, like we're all supposed to do, would allow the scalpel of your word, according to Hebrews 4:12, to cut and to remove anything that doesn't line up with you and your word. Not as we've been taught it, but as we get face to face with the one who is the word, and that's you, Jesus. Lord, you look upon him and all of us with passionate, fiery, loving, tender eyes. And when you look at him face to face and you pull him closer to yourself, Lord, I thank you for your love that's going to be revealed in any areas that need to shift or change so that we can be fully who you've created us to be. Our identity is sealed in you and our destiny is fully revealed. Now let him and all of us do our part to know you and to make you known. The responsibility for governing this city is not merely upon him, but it's individual responsibility. Lord, show him which voices he needs to listen to and show him where any unholy alliances have been formed or could potentially be formed. And let your discerning heart come forth and let him speak with courage, conviction, commitment, character, knowing that he's fully protected by you to be able to tell those influences no in the name of Jesus. And I bless him now in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.